imagine being in a position to where you want to be there versus forcing yourself to be there because you have to be there. And I want that to set the frame of this episode as something for you guys to think about while watching this video. And which I'll explain into a lot more detail about this throughout this episode. And I'll give you a hint here. I am not referring to discipline. That's a whole different separate topic that I've also somewhat covered in a different video that I might go into far more depth in a separate episode video. But anyway, so I recently watched the movie Acts of Valor. Yes, the movie is probably 10 years old at this point, if not more than that. And I had the craving and yes, I've seen it several times in the last 10, 15 years that it's been out. And I had this craving to watch it again because I had this this craving to see like well trained professionals in an oiled machine just go to work as a team, as a unit to get things done. And there's all kinds of things that I cannot help but notice in that movie because that movie is portrayed by actual Navy SEALs, and they were not just actors from Hollywood that were putting on a show for the audience. Essentially, like the people in that movie were actual SEALs with actual legit tactics and weapons, just portraying a correction that they were acting out on a fake mission, right? So a few things I noticed here is that throughout the oh my God, I'm still running a cold right now, so my fault. A few things I noticed in this video is that um, there was not one point in time throughout the entire video that there was ever any attitude or any complaining or any like lack of motivation to get the job done, to do whatever it was required to complete the current mission and the next mission and go from there. Essentially, they were traveling all over the world on separate missions and assignments to take down this organization. It was a terrorist cell that eventually made it to the U.S. as suicide bombers. And the SEAL team was going all over the world to essentially like I want to say nitpick. Anyway, to like the sort of to attack these units and go from there, right? And once again, there is not one point in that entire video and any of those missions to where there's ever any attitude, any complaining, or any lack of motivation. It was, hey, here's the objective, here's the mission, let's go. And even when, sorry, and even oh, oh my God. And apparently there's some COVID stuff going on. Anyway, so and yeah, nationwide right now. Anyway, so and even during one of the last parts of their mission of when they attacked that hut that I believe was in Mexico, or no, it was I forget where it was, but they ended up attacking one a hut that was one of the primary ground spots that that they were putting together these bomb suits for the ceramic bullet bearings for the suicide bombers, right? And after taking down that cell, um, everyone thought the mission was over. Cool, like hoorah, like the mission is over. Well done, and go from there. It wasn't until the LT got got word from, I think she was also an LT, that that was only half of that jihadist cell, and that the other half was already en route to Mexico to infiltrate a funnel system into America. And so once again, when they got word, it was probably like it was super late at night. They just had a successful mission of taking down half of the cell, and life was good. To then find out that again that was only half the cell, and then now have to take out the other half by going across the globe or wherever they went to go back to go to Mexico to stop the second half of that cell from entering the U.S., right? And once again, there was no complaining, there was no attitude, there's no lack of motivation. It was okay, cool, let's go. To me, that was awesome because for that was awesome because like if you fast forward to oh my God, if you fast forward to today's world, that with all kinds of lack of motivation everywhere, on top of the mindset of dreading Monday to wake up exhausted, miserable, and defeated every Monday morning to survive the week and start your countdown to Friday to celebrate by essentially doing nothing and relaxing and to repeat the whole cycle all over again. Lots of complaining, lots of attitude, and lots of lack of motivation to survive the week of your 9 to 5 job. To essentially every day, starting your countdown every day to the end of your shift to do essentially to do nothing. And to me, it's that mindset of most people factually and statistically force themselves to show up at their 9 to 5 to support themselves, to earn a paycheck, to pay bills. And I'll talk more about that in a second later on in the video too. And they don't actually want to be there, but they're forcing themselves to be there because they have to be there to support themselves, to make money, to pay their mortgage, to pay their utility bills, to provide and protect them, things of that nature. And most guys absolutely hate their job, and they go to their job to. How did I want to word this? Okay, so they work a job they hate to buy things that they don't need, such as expensive car payments, luxury car payments, huge giant freaking TVs, electronics, all those things, overpriced electronics for the gratification of to say I have it, right? And to then go into debt for the next 5 years with loans for cars and stuff like that. It's a rabbit hole. Anyway, so and I had some going there too, but I forgot what I want to say with that. I don't know. Anyway, so but again, the mindset of an active valor for those SEALs was they wanted to be there to solve the problem and to accomplish the mission versus forcing themselves to be there because they had to be there. Well, granted, yes, there's a part where they had to be there because that was literally their job. That's what their contract was. But attitude-wise, there's no attitude. There's no complaining. There was no lack of motivation. It was let's freaking go, right? And to solve the problem. And now, with that being said, I wanted to share with you some of my experience that I've had with this in the last several years. So, like for example, when I was a indirect fire infantryman in the Army, towards the tail end of my contract, there was a moment where I was spending a few hours trying to diagnose a problem with the LMTV that I was assigned to. And it came close to lunchtime, and I was asked, "Hey Jeff, what are you thinking for lunch today?" And then my immediate response was, "I'm not worried about lunch right now. I want to get this problem solved." And it was just the mindset of there that I was focused on solving this issue at hand to where I didn't even care about eating food and going from there. Later on in the civilian sector, when I was at my corporate job that works partially on a commission-based system, there have been several moments or days to where I chose to take on a job that did not pay any like money in terms of commission, but I was intrigued to solve the problem. In fact, I was driven to figure it out. And this in this specific example, it happened to be, I think it was like a Honda Civic or something of that nature that had a not only a low tire light on, but also it had a TPMS light on. So it had two separate things going on for to essentially say that one of your tires are low, but they're not low. And at the time, so this was like 5 years ago, probably at this point, to where um, there wasn't a whole lot of information out there or people that actively knew how to that wow. There weren't a whole lot of people out there, to my knowledge or understanding, that had the skills to be able to figure this stuff out. But also, there wasn't a lot of information in general out there to solve this problem and figure this stuff out. So I took the initiative and started learning this stuff on my own and just started researching this stuff. And over the course of an hour of messing with a scan tool, test driving it, doing some research, looking things up on XYZ platforms or whatever, I eventually figured it out. And I was grateful. And despite that job paying zero commission for my time, I was spending upwards of an hour on it. I was grateful because I figured out the problem, I solved the problem, and then in the future, I now have the skill to be able to solve that same problem just like that for when I see that problem come up again. And it's came up several times since then. And from there, I became known as what's called a TPMS expert because I was one of the few guys that had a good amount of experience of getting rid of that low tire based light, because pretty much every car manufacturer has their own way of doing things. And now, but for this specific case of this Honda, I learned that the low tire lights and the TPMS light were actually two separate things. The low tire light just meant that it's generally an indication that you have low tire pressure, but the second light means that there's that there is code stored in the system, and I had to go in there and not only figure out why those codes were being stored, but to get rid of them to that way they won't come back after you just automatically delete the code and go from there. And I figured what happened from there. But long story short, when I was done with it, both lights were off and stayed off, and life was good. And so Honda is one of the few manufacturers that have two separate lights for that, one for stored codes and one for just a low tire light in general, where most manufacturers just have one light in general, for which can mean either a low tire or a problem itself with that system from a sensor based issue. So that's kind of my takeaway from that. And had I only been focused on the money part of it and not cared all about that job because I didn't pay anything, I never would have figured that problem out. Because again, I chose to take on that job because I wanted to take it on to learn from it and to learn a new skill and be able to solve that problem in the future, versus not having to because I was forcing myself to do it because I had to do it, right? And now, was there another example that I don't know? Let me look back here quick. Yeah, so, and on that note too, like that brings me to a point where I kind of mentioned a minute ago, where we're working your 9 to 5 for a paycheck, and that's it. So that mentality alone of being there because you want to be there versus having to be there and force yourself to be there because you have to be there. Imagine being at a place to solve problems, to change lives and making a difference, versus purely showing up for the paycheck and that's it. Two very, very different mindset approaches to that. One of them is, what's the problem and how do we solve this? And let's go and solve this problem, versus, that's not my job. That's not my problem. How much does that pay? And I'm off in 10 minutes type of thing. Like, there's two very different approaches to the same scenario. Question is, which one are you, and which one do you want to be in the future going forward, especially for 2025? And at that point too, which one is going to get you better long-term results, to learn skills, to increase your capacity to learn and to solve bigger problems in the future? So I mean, it's the same scenario. It's just approaching it with two very different mindsets. Um, so and the paycheck mindset, factually is and statistically, is occupied by a good 90% of the population that works a 9 to 5 job, that wakes up every Monday miserable, exhausted, and defeated, and dreads the work week and dreads their life, starts their countdown to the last second of their shift to go home and either do nothing or go out, have a few beers, watch Netflix, binge watch the game all night, go to bed, and repeat. Versus and then do that for the next year, and then look at yourself in the mirror and figure out, and then wonder why you hate what you see in the mirror. You're not happy with your physique. You haven't accomplished anything personal, professional, or relationship wise. In fact, all three of those things will probably have downgraded since then. Versus having a 1% growth mentality of having a plan going into the week to wake up with purpose, execute with passion, and make your future self proud by having a plan of action, by having clarity, by having a plan of action, by having clarity, and by having direction and purpose and a plan of action. I think I already mentioned that once already. And to attack the week with specific oh my God, with specific targets and intent to grow, to see how much you can accomplish by the end of the week, and then repeat that for the next week, for the next month, for the next quarter, for the next 6 months, for the next year, and then to look at yourself in the mirror and smile at what you see with how much progress you've made in the last year alone, with the amount of targets that you've hit, the amount of progress that you've made, your physical body, the improvements with that from working out, eating good foods, getting to bed at a good time, drinking enough water. Which translates into professional growth of wanting to be there to solve problems, to make a difference and change freaking lives, to look forward to being there, to making a freaking difference without the attitude, without complaining, and at that point, the whole lack of motivation thing won't even be a thing, because you have a different approach to that, to where it's not a lack of motivation. It's a matter of, because with that mindset, the lack of motivation is from that toxic mindset, compared to you're so focused on what do I need to do to solve this problem? What am I missing? What am I not seeing? And then actively go through the motion of trying X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G things until something works from a step-by-step logical process, right? And then get the fulfillment and satisfaction of solving the problem, learning a new skill, and then having that new skill for life, that you can now solve that same problem much faster when you see it again in the future. To then, once again, look forward to the week, to then celebrate your wins and accomplishments at the end of the year, because you put in the work with a solid mindset of growth, instead of playing the victim mentality of it's not my job, not my problem. How much is my paycheck? Is there money involved? Versus, what's the problem? How do I solve it? When can we start? And go from there. I couldn't think of a fourth one for that on the spot, but you get the idea. Two very different approaches for the same scenario. Two very different approaches for life. And yet only one of them has a chance to win in life, and the other one has essentially lives a life of mediocrity and suffering the entire time, playing the victim card of life isn't fair. I'm here for the paycheck, and oh God. So the things that I see and think about when I watch movies, it fascinates me. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to touch up on that. Yeah, so like back to the paycheck thing, like there was someone that mentioned that statement a while ago that kind of hit me of where they said that I'm here to earn a paycheck. That statement just tells me everything I need to know. They're not there to be a team player. They're not there to solve problems. They're not there to participate to become a well-oiled machine that works together as one unit to solve problems effectively together. Instead, individuals that are only there for one thing is that themselves and the paycheck. And everything else in between is not my problem, not my job. I'm off in 5 minutes. Figure it out. Which circles back to not my problem and not my job. Versus, versus the military mindset and active valor of going on a raid, if you want to call it that, for lack of a better word right now, going on a mission at probably 2 o'clock in the morning with night vision on to to shut down a terrorist cell network at probably 2 o'clock in the morning. Who knows what time it is? It was super dark outside. That's all I know. I'm in the video. And it was well past the 9 to 5 hours of operation. And they were there because they wanted to be there because they wanted to change lives. They wanted to protect America. And they want to take down a freaking terrorist cell network before they had a chance to grow and outside of control. They weren't there for the paycheck of that. They never once asked themselves, how much money does this pay? Is that my job? How long is this going to take? And hey, I'm off the clock in like 10 minutes here. Like that was never ever a conversation or question that popped up in any of those SEALs' heads. It was, hey, here's the problem. Let's take down the freaking enemy and then get back home alive and do whatever it takes in between to solve that problem. Like, isn't that something? Like, it's just the mindset of that, of the 9 to 5er, of the victim mindset versus the 1% growth mindset that wants to solve problems, that wants to solve problems, that wants to be there to make a difference, and that wants to change lives. I think that's fascinating. And I think that in this context, for this podcast of men's improvement and personal development, that's kind of the take home that I want you guys to take home with that, of having that growth mindset of wanting to be there instead of being forced to be there because you have to be there. To have that mindset of, here's the problem. How do I solve it? What have I missed? What are some resources I need? What are some approaches or steps that I might have missed in the process? What did I learn throughout the process? What could I have changed differently to improve that process and go from there? To then build a community and a well-oiled machine for the future that actually enjoys your presence, that respects your attitude, your mindset, because you're a team player, because you're not just there for the paycheck, because you actually want to grow the company and the organization, the business as a team effort, instead of just being there for the individual to get a paycheck. And then, oh my God. Now, a minute ago, I mentioned the whole 9 to 5 mindset, the whole 9 to 5 mindset. Let me take that back. I don't think a 9 to 5 mindset is bad, and that I was purely just categorized in the same. I was placing it in the same category as the victim mindset, because that's generally what victim mindset people do, is they work a 9 to 5. With that being said, there's nothing wrong with the 9 to 5 with having a 9 to 5. I personally think, especially from my experience, is that there are lots of 9 to 5 jobs out there that are doing good work, effective work, that are making an impact for your community, like for America or whatever country that you live in and that they watch this video in, that there's awesome jobs out there that need to be done, and then I respect your efforts for putting in the work, to showing up, to making a difference in your community, to change lives, and doing things that no one else wants to do. And that's kind of a Goggins reference too, without even realizing that was on the spot. But yeah, like a 9 to 5 is not a bad thing. I think that Instagram and all that stuff portrays the 9 to 5 to be like an outdated thing. It's not. I think a 9 to 5 is something that all men, especially young men, should have that all men should look forward to learning the value of hard work, to learn the skills, to appreciate the work, to learn the value of the work, to learn the value of a dollar, to learn the efforts and work that it takes to complete XYZ task, and the outcome of it, of learning a new skill, problem solving, building resources, building teams, and going from there. And on top of that too, from a business standpoint, like if you just want to essentially like clock in, so to speak, and just grind all day without having to put in a lot of thought from the business side of it, that's cool. Wow, voice crack there. That's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think a 9 to 5 is the perfect place to start out. It's to appreciate, to build work ethic, to appreciate the amount of effort it takes for XYZ job, to learn skills, to build skills, to learn from people that have lots of experience, wisdom, and all that stuff, to eventually maybe start your own thing, to work your way up, to pay for school, to get a degree, to get the certification, the qualifications that you need for your ideal path, which it still could be a 9 to 5, but it's in your dream occupation. Oh yeah, it's in your dream occupation. And that reminds me of a separate point that I forgot earlier, that I now wanted to bring up. So all of this circles back to the original statement of this video, of the mindset of wanting to be there versus having to be there, right? So in the movie Fight Club that I mentioned in a previous podcast video, Raymond, that's what his name was. I forgot what his name was last time I mentioned the Fight Club reference in the previous episode that I made. Raymond. So when in Fight Club, where they went to like some type of a gas station or convenience store or whatever, they took the cashier or the owner of it or whatever he was. He's probably just a cashier. He took him in the back alley of the store, put a gun to his head, and said something along the lines of like, "Hey Raymond, is this what you want to do?" No. Cool. So what is it that you want to do with your life? I want to be a veterinarian. Awesome. Why are you not a veterinarian? Because too much school, and school itself is expensive. Would you rather? And then Tyler Durden says, would you rather not be alive anymore? And I'm choosing specific words here to avoid getting in trouble with YouTube right now to be fully transparent with you. And he goes, no. He goes, okay, cool. So here's the thing. I now have your driver's license. I know your name and I know where you live. If you were, and I'm going to check up on you. If you are not on your way to becoming a veterinarian in the next 6 months, we are gonna have a talk. And that's the PG-13 version, the PG version of what they actually said, to avoid saying specific words, to avoid getting YouTube upset. Anyway, so. And I had a thought there, like mid into that scenario, and now I forgot what that thought was too. God damn it! I hate it when I forget what I want to say mid sentence. Oh yeah, so something I thought about earlier, like before I made this video, is that you only have one life to live. And 18 years of that are spent in school to essentially memorize things and learn what to think. And then when you get it, and then when you get into the actual trades of learning things over time, you learn how to think, right? But once again, you only have one life to live. The question for you is, are you are you currently choosing to show up because you want to be there, or are you showing up because you have to be there and you're forcing yourself to be there because you have to be there? And you only have one life to live. Like, this is it. How many years have you spent dreading every single day, waking up exhausted, miserable, drained, defeated, depressed, surviving life, starting your countdown to Friday to do nothing on the weekend except play video games, binge watch Netflix, and whatever, which is what most people, which is what most guys do, right? Especially guys 20s and 30s, right? You have one life to live. Do you want to spend that life doing something that you actually enjoy doing, that you're passionate about, that gets you freaking fired up, that you want to be there, that you get excited about showing up to solve problems, to make a difference, to change lives? Or do you want to be there to collect a paycheck and say, that's not my problem, that's not my job, what time do I get off? Oh, hey, I've only got 10 minutes left on my shift, so I'll figure it out. And that person is actually close to 90% of the population. And it remains a mystery why mental health is so high and lots of other things are happening with mental health diseases and whatnot. It remains a mystery why guys wake up exhausted, miserable, defeated, depressed, and burnt out. Versus over here, waking up with passion, waking up with purpose, executing with passion, making your future self proud, to show up, to solve problems, make a difference in your community, and to change lives. Solving problems, no matter what it takes, and no matter how long it takes to do that, to learn skills to solve bigger problems in the future. That can once again change lives and make a difference in the overall bigger grand scheme of things. I can't talk right now. Awesome. That's kind of my takeaway with this video for you is, which person do you want to be? The 1% growth mentality that shows up because they want to be there to solve problems, make a difference, and to change lives. Or I'm here for a paycheck. How much does this pay? I'm off in 10 minutes. That's not my problem. That's not my job. Which mindset do you want to be? Especially going into 2025. Think about that one for a minute. And let that kind of set the stage for not only this episode, but for 2025. And then, of course, to make your future self proud. That's all I can think of in this video. Just wanted to share that message with you guys to give you something to think about the next time that you're in a place of you don't want to be there, but you have to be there type of thing. And just to then recognize it, change your entire mindset around it. And there's a good chance that you completely change your entire perspective and point of view on life by showing up differently with a better 1% growth mindset instead. To then wake up with purpose, execute with passion, and make your future self proud. That's all I got for you. Until next time, JB out.